This is our 2020 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk we've owned since it was new. Now, nearly 4 years later, it has close to 50,000 miles on it. I was changing oil back in January and wasn't too happy when I found this. I was looking close at this. I see a little oil leak right there. You see that right there? There was a drip coming down there. Oh, there's some more oil. Oh boy. There's oil right here. Oh man. Freaking thing. Oh, right there. Okay. Better see where that's coming from. Well, we got something leaking here. I don't know what the heck it is, but yeah, we had a pretty good oil leak going on here. Oddly enough, I never saw any oil dripping onto our driveway either. What a bummer. But I need to determine where this oil was coming from. Inspection cover right here. Yeah. Plastic inspection cover. Take a look. Okay, got the inspection cover off. There's oil up inside there. Shouldn't be oil in there. The rear main seal probably. Damn. Less than 50,000 miles. Why the heck would the rear main seal be leaking after less than 50,000 miles, and how am I going to fix it? I'll have to figure that out, but it was time to go ahead and finish this oil change. As part of this oil change, I plan on sending a sample of the oil in to have it analyzed to see how this little Pentastar was doing up to this point. Got our Speed diagnostic oil sample bottle. Yeah, I just shut off the engine. It says you're supposed to wait or not go any longer 15 minutes after you shut off your engine. So you're supposed to let it run for 3 seconds before you take the sample. This is going to be fun. 1, 2, 3. That's at least 3. That's plenty. I think we got it. That was pretty painless. Let this thing drain. This Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic is the oil I put back in there. Fast forwarding 4 months, we're going to see how the Cherokee's doing now. It's almost May, and that's the mileage we're sitting at. We're going to get underneath this thing, see if that rear main seal's still leaking. Okay, there's no oil leaking out here onto the skid plate. So let's get this skid plate off here and go check it out. Well, there's no oil on the skid plate, or the top of the skid plate really, and I don't see any drips hanging off this. There was last time, so that's good. See up in there, I'm gonna pull the inspection cover off. See the oil hanging off anything like there was before. So I don't think it's leaking now. There's no real oil around all this crap like there was before. Yes, lucky for us, the rear main seal oil leak looks like it stopped, which was a big relief, but surprised me a bit too. Remember I took that oil sample back in January? Let's have a look at the results and maybe we can get some clues into what's going on with this engine. The test results came back showing no abnormal engine wear or antifreeze leaking into the oil, which is shown here. That was my primary concern, but the oil's level of oxidation was extremely high with a reading of 78.3, shown here. From what I've read, oxidation is the primary indicator of the remaining life of the oil, and oxidation is greatly accelerated by oil's exposure to high heat. So, with a reading of over 78, the Cherokee's oil had been toast for quite a while. The viscosity reading was high too, which is another indicator that the oil was done. So at this point you probably have a few questions about the oil I was using, like what brand it was, or how long was it in the engine in order to fail these tests. I'll see if I can answer some of those questions next. I use this Amsoil Full Synthetic. I've been using Amsoil for better than 30 years. It's good oil, kind of spendy. Well, that was me about 4 years ago when I first changed the oil in the Cherokee at 6,900 miles. Over the 4 years we've owned this Cherokee, I've continued to use the Amsoil Signature Series oil and have changed the oil at the 1 year interval Amsoil guarantees the oil should be good for. Now this video is not about using Amsoil specifically, it's more about oil changes in general, so it doesn't matter what kind of oil you're using. Most engine oils out there are good enough when they're first put in the engine. It's how long they stay good enough is the concern. So how are we supposed to know how long the oil stays good? Cars today have oil life monitors that manufacturers want to be used to tell you when to change the oil. Talking to people that really know engines, they'll tell you it's not a good idea to use these oil life monitors, as many times they will run the engine oil past its useful life. I haven't used the Cherokee's oil life monitor because I was using what I thought was Amsoil's 1 year change interval. Well, at least I always thought it was a 1 year guarantee, but taking a closer look, the guarantee reads up to 1 year, which totally changes what Amsoil is guaranteeing. When you add the words up to, it seems there is really no guarantee at all, at least not a drain interval guarantee. So if there's no drain interval guarantee, how are you supposed to determine when to change the oil? I mean, Amsoil costs twice as much as other engine oils, so you want it to last as long as possible. The only way to know for sure if your oil has exceeded its useful life or not is to get your oil analyzed. The light bulb finally came on after all these years, and I realized that's how Amsoil really wanted me to determine when to change my oil. Get the oil analyzed as it ages and change the oil when the analysis tells me to, but do not exceed their maximum 1 year oil change interval. Too expensive for me to be doing that. Speed diagnostic analysis services cost twice as much as the other places charge, but I enjoy the Oil Geek videos and wanted to show my appreciation at least this one time. I sent the oil analysis report to Amsoil and found their response pretty confusing. Pause to read it if you want. They didn't say the oil had exceeded its life and should be changed like I expected them to, even though they said the test showed the oil oxidation was at its limit, which to me says it's time to get new oil in there. I mean, how many ways does oil have to fail for Amsoil to call for an oil change? But Amsoil did mention an oil analysis trend line, which sounded familiar, as I've heard it from the Oil Geek too. This method would be okay if you had a super expensive engine you had to worry about, but I can't justify the expense of getting oil analysis done 2 or 3 times a year on a doggone Cherokee. Since I'm not relying on getting oil analysis done to determine when to change the oil, I was relying on the assumption that Amsoil was bulletproof and could make it 1 year without a problem. This used oil analysis proves Amsoil isn't bulletproof, at least in the little 3.2 Pentastar engine the Cherokee has in it, or the problem could be the way we use our Cherokee. I got water up my exhaust. Sounds kind of gurgly. Where is that? Blown out. So I drained my old friend Amsoil out for the last time at 49,000 miles and put in this Pennzoil Platinum. I'm kind of bummed about it, but it doesn't matter what kind of tests Amsoil can pass out in the world. If it can't pass my DLW Oregon test using my Cherokee with a 3.2 Pentastar, I can't use it anymore. So if I'm not going to use the Cherokee's oil life monitor to tell me when it's time to change the oil, how am I going to know when to do it? I think I'm going to go old school for a while and change the oil every 3,000 miles. I'll probably do another oil analysis after a few changes at 3,000 miles to see how the oil and the engine is holding up with 3,000 mile oil changes. You'd think a good modern synthetic oil like Pennzoil would have no problem at all going beyond 3,000 miles. But we'll have to test that assumption in our Cherokee and how it gets used, or maybe abused in some cases.